he's been so gracious to give us his time. They just get off the practice field. Coach, thank you for coming on. We're not going to keep you too long. I know it's been a long day.
Yeah, all good. It's a good day. Just like we're at home, actually. Players got some study hall in, got a lift in, and got a practice in. So we've been moving here.
How far is Round Rock from Austin?
You know, I had my head in my computer the whole time, but it didn't seem like we were on the bus. Like 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
it was pretty quick.
A little suburb. Let's
great scheduling by you, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Round Rock Classic a little bit before we start talking about looking ahead to Texas. Obviously, y'all go in there. You play Kansas State Friday, Iowa on Saturday, Sam Houston on Sunday. You get the first loss of the season out of the way because, let's be real, 56-0 probably wasn't going to happen. So you get the first loss. You get your first little taste of adversity. I felt like the guys responded really well. What did you see from the weekend? What are you proud of? What do you kind of see, hey, we need to get better at this?
Yeah, I think, if you look at each day, Friday, the good was, Paul Skeens again. Actually, was in a little bit of trouble in the first inning, and that's what true aces do is they can wiggle their way out of trouble when they get into it. And so getting out of the first inning, only giving up one. I think we scored one in the second. Hit some balls hard. It was very much like last Friday at home. Very windy, wind blowing in, big field. The home run wasn't really a part of last Friday's game. So found a way to just stay with it, scratch out 7 runs. Ty Floyd was awesome again out of the bullpen. So it was a good win against the Power 5 team. Saturday, there's 2 things that happened. Iowa played really well. I thought we saw 2 real pitchers. The Brody Brecht. It was a fastball up to 101 with a 92-mile-an-hour slider. I got to be honest, I hadn't seen that, and kind of preparing for the game and watching video. The closest I could make a comparison to of a college pitcher that I'd seen like that was Steven Strasburg, and that was like 14 years ago. And so, he's impressive. We executed part of our plan as far as running the pitch count up, and we're somewhat disciplined. It's just, when the slider's 92 miles an hour and you're starting early because it's a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, that makes hitting hard. And, we just couldn't quite cash in there. Offensively, they jumped on us.
At your head one pitch, or you don't really know where it's going to go, and then dots up. He's effectively wild, is what people like to call it, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the most impressive inning for him was the first inning. Like, we went walk, infield hit, walk. And then he went strikeout, strikeout, strikeout. And I went back and watched that. I thought we chased one pitch out of the zone. And then there just was no other pitch to actually just not even get a hit, but move the ball forward and get a guy in on. So you kind of tip your hat to him at that point. And then they got some offensive momentum going. And you got to give credit to Iowa. Rick Heller's a really good coach, and they were prepared to play. And so you kind of have to swallow that one. And then the next day, it wasn't really anything, but hey, here's an opportunity to respond to a loss or a failure. And that's going to be an important part of our competitive character going forward. And we're going to lose another game, unfortunately, at some point in time. I don't operate that way. I kind of the old Augie Garrido style of there's no reason we can't win every game mindset. But baseball shows you it's probably going to happen. And I thought it showed the competitive character of the team. It was a very complete performance from the mound defensively and offensively against a really good team. That team will be an NCAA tournament team. I think we'll win their conference, and it'll be a good win up on the board, at the end of the season for us.
Jared, you got one?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
I got you.
Okay, yeah. Coach, for you talked about the team executing a part of the plan on Saturday, particularly. As a hitting guy, how big of a stressor is it for you to be able to convey a message to the team that being able to, execute your plan is probably one of the most important things you can do as a hitter?
It's all we talk about. We put a lot of work in from day one on building a really solid foundation, visually, mechanically, approach-wise, and we stay on them pretty good. And then, the game doesn't change a whole lot as far as what we're trying to do, but we try to get them exactly what they need to do each game and lay it out really, really clearly. And you know what? For 7 games, we've been pretty good. I actually look at Saturday and thought it had thrown 101 miles an hour with a 92 mile an hour slider, and then a really good bullpen guy. The guy that came out of the bullpen did a nice job also to slow us down, and we still scored 4 runs. So if you pitch well and you defend well, which we didn't pitch well in that game, but if you do that, you still have a chance to win that game. So there's some optimism going forward. I think we've got some answers on a few things, which I'm excited about. But I think, like you said, Jared, like that's all we drive home. I want clarity for our hitters when they step in the box as far as what we're trying to do. And these guys have executed it pretty good through 7 games. It took a pretty talented guy and then another good bullpen guy to slow us down.
Now, before we move on to the pitching, because I do have some questions on that side, I want to point out, we talked a little bit about that this morning, but Jared Jones, he's a freshman. He's been in the lineup since day one. He's put up some, he looks impressive. He's had some great at-bats. Saturday, as a true freshman, playing in a big matchup against an elite opponent, going 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. And on his 5th at-bat, look, I've been there, right? On his 5th at-bat, he gets down 1-2, fights it off, flies out to right field, doesn't have to go into the dugout with 5 punchies. Goes the next day, multi-hit game, home run, doesn't hang his head. How important is that, especially from a young guy, to be able to go and rebound? Because the mental part of baseball is such a debilitating thing. For him to be able to recover and do that from day to day as a true freshman, how important was that and how good was that to see?
That was phenomenal. And kind of like, when we came back from break, I felt like he could be a key piece of this thing, but just like these other guys, he had to earn his at-bats. Like he earned his at-bats. And the weekend before the season, we had a really competitive scrimmage on Friday night where Paul was throwing, Cooper was throwing, Grant Taylor was actually the night he got hurt. It was very competitive, and he had a little bit of a rough night that night. And I brought him into the office the next morning and just said, hey, like, you're doing fine. This is a good test of how are you going to respond. Let's get back in the approach. And then he homered off Thatcher Hurd off the hitter's eyes first at bat. And then had 3 more hits. And I was like, there's something to this dude more than just talent. And so I really wasn't all that surprised on Sunday. I paid it no mind because I'd actually seen it 2 weeks earlier. But you're right, to move the ball forward in that last at bat for a sacrifice fly and immediately respond. I think it shows his talent, but it shows his character too, and it's why he's going to be a staple in this lineup for as long as he's here.
Going back to the pitching staff, right? Obviously on Saturday, Riley Cooper kind of got hit around. I think the numbers don't really show. I don't think he pitched as bad as the actual final line shows. But they gave up some runs. The game kind of got out of hand. What do you think? What would you like to see them do better? Be able to kind of slow the damage down and not kind of have that snowball effect?
Yeah, I think that day it was pretty simple, actually. We got in position to put some of their hitters away, and we didn't do it. Like that first inning where they scored 3, there was 2 outs, 2 strikes, and nobody on base and no runs there.
Yeah.
And, we didn't finish the inning until we were down from the start. And I think it was the 3rd, something didn't go well, and then, the count got away from him, and he kind of started to pull it back together and minimize damage, but we were chasing runs against really talented staff at that point. So, I think if I could summarize Saturday, we did not maybe execute what we call kill pitches or finished pitches as well as we want to or as well as we have in the other games. I do think Will Homer's performance was huge. Obviously, it allowed us to line up the pitching the way that we wanted to for last night's game and still put us in a pretty decent spot for tomorrow. So I wanted to note that was a really good performance by him.
Jay?
Coach, for this being the first real road game of the season, I think one of the bigger surprises we've all kind of seen so far is the number of young guys you have playing, especially offensively. Did you look at this as a huge test, being able to go on the road in a hostile environment right now, to be able to kind of see how those guys, those younger kids, are able to come in and maybe perform in this situation?
Yeah, I think you guys know this as really good players is, the best coach you're ever going to have in your lifetime and experience. And so this is another experience that these guys will be able to draw from. I think, knowing we're going to go to, good road environments in the SEC, at A&M, at South Carolina, at Georgia, at Auburn, I think it's pretty clear that we're going to have to get comfortable playing on the road and winning on the road, which last year's team did a really good job of. And so I thought getting a true road game, hostile environment, should help us for 2 or 3 weeks down the line when we're at Texas A&M. And so I thought, knowing we were going to Round Rock, knowing that we would draw a good crowd at Texas tomorrow night, and excited to have a bunch of our fans here too. A bunch of them have told me they're staying over, and we're really appreciative of that. Should be a good matchup.
As far as tomorrow night goes, obviously you've come out and said that you're not saying who's starting, who's not starting. Thatcher Hurd started last Tuesday. Christian Little did not throw this weekend. I'd imagine based off of Thatcher not being at full go early on in the spring, I'd imagine that you see both guys. Is that kind of the plan? I know you don't want to announce the starter yet, but I'd imagine you see a few guys tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, we feel great about where we were at and where we came out of this tournament. I think 2 things were really good about last night's game. Number 1 was Garrett Edwards' performance. I mean, not only did he pitch well and go 3 in the 30 innings, but he did it on 36 pitches. And so him through that with a lot of strikes. Griffin Herring got 4 outs and did it on 15 pitches. So that back part of the game went really fast, and with low pitch counts, and helped us to keep, a couple of our better guys out of the ball game. And so the only positive about Saturday was we were down. And with our team, that doesn't mean we're gonna punt the game because we can score so quickly. So I think we got some good clarity of maybe where guys fit a little bit better, and then the way both games played out, being a little bit of large scores, it puts us in a pretty good position pitching-wise for tomorrow.
Staying on that game and staying on the pitching staff, Chase Shore, you came out before the game and you said, hey, Chase is going to get through the lineup one time, and then we're going to move on. What went into that decision? What went into that strategy? Obviously he's a young guy, and I know you want to put him in the best situation for him, but talk me through that game plan and that strategy.
Yeah, I mean, we played the day game both Friday and Saturday, and, I go back to the hotel, turn my laundry in, take a shower, flip on the next game. We're playing, that team, one of those teams the next day. And I mean, those guys raked. I mean, they had 31 hits and a bunch of extra base hits the last 2 days. They scored like 20 against McNeese on Tuesday. And they what I thought and what Coach Wes Johnson thought is these guys, they're absolutely legit at hitting mistakes. Yeah. And we didn't want them to look at anybody a second time around. And so that's kind of what went into that decision. And, as far as Chase goes, I couldn't be happier with his performance. I mean, some good hitters, but the way his velocity, he can really move the ball too. He might give up a hit, but it's hard to get him elevated and get him, in the air and out of the park. And yesterday the ball was flying, so that was really important. So he gave us 2 really good innings. I think he hit 103 times, and he was in the strike zone the whole time. He didn't lose the strike zone at all. And then Bryce came out and gave us a good inning in the third, completely different, and then lost command a little bit. But Garrett helped us out. Griffin was great, and Blake Money was good. So it was just a plan for the whole staff, and it had more to do with Sam Houston than anything else.
Coach, when you talk about Wes Johnson, how quickly has he been able to acclimate into? Obviously, he's coached in college baseball before, but coming from the Minnesota Twins and being able to get a whole new staff basically on his hands, how quickly do you feel like he's been able to acclimate and kind of figure out these guys, basically on a test by case basis?
Yeah, he's the best. I think the preparation thing is a big deal for me, and he's elite at it. Helps us take it to another level. Whether that's understanding our own guys, what their strengths are and where they'll fit in the game, or against certain types of hitters, and then how to execute pitch plans. And I mean, it's been great working with him, and does a great job of getting those guys prepared. And he's super competitive. And Josh Jordan the same way in recruiting. It's like they're perfect fits for this staff and this team. Like they have a lot of pride in what they do, and they put the work into the players, and the players get to benefit, and we get to benefit on game day from that. So he's doing a great job.
Jay,
Coach, can you talk about Tommy White's start? Obviously, the injury happens; he misses a week. Can you talk about where he is right now and things that you feel that he needs to do to basically get back on track to what we all know what's in the that he can do, and where you expect him to be at the end of this thing?
Yeah, I think I have admiration for the toughness piece of it as far as wanting to get back in there. That's the first thing that kind of stands out. Super competitive. That's the only way you get back from an injury like that quickly. I think physically he's fine. We started growing a little bit today, which was good. And I think that'll be a slow burn back to full health from a throwing standpoint. But, as far as the at-bats, I made a huge bat on Friday. Dylan led off with a hit, no surprise there.
Yeah.
And then he immediately went down 0-2. Yeah, how about that deal? And then went 0-2 in the count, and then fought his way back and, got a 2-strike hit to kind of keep that moving, and that's when we went ahead 3-1. Tough day on Saturday for a lineup at. And then yesterday, we kind of itemized some things we wanted him to do in the game. And, not as good as probably he wants to do. I actually saw some improvement in that. And so what I think is the more at-bats he gets back into it here, the more comfortable he'll get, more he'll be locked into what he needs to do to help us from a plan standpoint. And, I think it'll be in short order. He'll get back to being the quality hitter that he is. He's too good not to. And so there's a few controllable things as part of that I'm excited about that we can keep working on. He'll be in good shape.
Another guy in the lineup that I want to kind of hit on is Jobert, right? Obviously, he put up 18 homers last year. His average wasn't. I'm not a big average guy. I think that there's other ways that you can contribute as far as just because average isn't the tell-all on the offensive side of the baseball, but he made some adjustments in the offseason as far as the way his body is and how he's playing, especially defensively. He goes out on Sunday, it's 2 homers, looks really good doing it. What have you seen from him? What have you seen through his growth and maturation as a hitter?
Yeah, I think that's 2 good words to describe it, as just growth and maturation. I think, I'm very thankful for his contribution last year. Beating Florida 2 out of 3 and sweeping Vanderbilt, both on the road. Those are a big deal for us, building the program, back to trying to get to the top. And, LSU is always a top program, but, those 2 have had a say in the last few games of the college baseball season a lot here over the last 12 to 15 years. So, win that series at Florida and sweep Vanderbilt, that was because of him, in his performance. So that just tells you the talent. But what I'm most proud of is just hey, this is what we need to do for you to be a better player for yourself and for our team. And it's literally got to improve your body, got to improve defensively, got to improve mindset. So we're not giving away at bats between the damage. And that's all he's done through 7 games. I mean, I'll look at even Tuesday at Southern, I think he was on base 4 or 5 times. And it's just, he can do damage, but his ability to move the offense with strike zone discipline and quality at bats between those homers, it's not taking away from his ability to drive the ball over the fence. So I think he's just becoming a more complete hitter, and it completely changes our team when he takes those quality at bats. We saw it last year. I just think you're going to see it on a more consistent basis this year. We challenged him with some things in terms of handling better pitching. He was gone to work. He deserves all the credit for the work that he's put in for that. So it's just a follow-through is impressive to me, and you guys probably played with guys like this that have super talent. When they get super determined and they have a really good plan and they go execute it, then you see the results, and that's what's happened.
Coach, I appreciate your time. Only a couple more questions. I know you've had a very long day, but going into the game tomorrow, right? What do you want to see from the guys? What do you want? You're going into a hostile environment. You're going to a true road game. Defense and pitching always is something that you want on the road. You have confidence in being able to score the runs. What do you want to see from your guys tomorrow to be able to go in there? Now, obviously, you want to win, but you want to leave that game saying, okay, we got better today one way or another. What do you want to see from the guys tomorrow?
Yeah, I think consistency in approach. And when I say approach, that's not like just a hitting approach. That's just how we roll, so to speak. It's very clear, like, how we want to win games. I mean, we practice to it, we train to it, we prepare to it. And so it's not something they're not prepared for on game day. And so just staying within that and executing that from the mound, defensively, offensively on the bases, and then from a competitive standpoint, and just from a mental maturity standpoint, I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's a great test. And I think these guys have that unique skill to rise to the challenge. And that doesn't mean like playing above themselves. It just means doing what they're trained to do and ability to focus. And I just want to see that focus and discipline, because when they do that, you can see their talent.
Does you mean, not to harp on anything here, but does Tommy Tanks want to go head first, feet first? I saw him slide into home with the feet, and I saw him go back into first with the head. I mean, what are we doing here, Coach? If he needs a lesson, just let me know.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get what we call a dead man's lead at first base. I mean, yeah, and just like, I mean, like, if you just fell over on the base, you'd be safe.
We can take him to Blue Bayou, Coach. I know he hadn't been here for long, but we can get him down a water slide.
Yeah, and like, it was funny. Like, I mean, that was a good read. I mean, we were in what we call a red, where you're going down contact, one out from third base, and then he barreled in there and slid feet first. For a second, like, I thought about a shoulder injury because he like stuck right at the plate, and I was like, I hope his leg's okay. And, but man, if I was a catcher, I would not want to stand on the plate.
No, he does not look fun. You see the train coming through, you're like, I'm just gonna let you. I'm just gonna let you go.
Coming through.
I'm just gonna let you go.
Yeah.
How much can you attribute the type of defensive performance you've gotten so far from the squad to the actual, I guess, performances you've gotten on the mound, and how consistent the pitching has been through 7?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I think it's two things. I think I believe we needed to upgrade the pitching talent to compete at the highest possible level. We've done that. I think you see that when you see a guy like Paul take the mound, or Thatcher Hurd, or Christian, or Chase Shores. Griffin Herring was 95 from the left side last night.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. So I think that's part of it. I think they have a really good plan of what they're trying to do and understanding how to execute pitches and get hitters out. And then they're getting supported defensively. And, it's no secret, we just weren't very good last year for a few different reasons. And, I actually don't think this started like this year. Like, we've done some things differently in terms of how we prepared defensively for the season. But, I think we began this, we'll call it in the middle of last year. It's led to, improvement this year. And I'm really proud of how those guys are playing. And it's kind of with some guys out of position a little bit too. So it's not a fluke, because different guys are doing it at different spots. Obviously, right. Jordan Thompson played phenomenal short. Brady and Alex, for the most part, are well. Dylan is the best center fielder you could ask for. Gavin Dugas is fielding great at second base and make the routine play, making some diving plays. Trey at first has been great. He learned what a warning track is.
Yeah, I was about to ask, how is it Trey in left field? You got to go through him a little bit. The wall doesn't creep up near as quick as it does in the outfield. I can promise you that.
Yeah, but I gotta credit his toughness, because he literally couldn't swing the bat on Saturday, and then to come back that quickly on Sunday and put together quality at bats. And I really like seeing him come up with men on base, and he's such a professional hitter and do his deal. Big deal for our team.
Coach, last question before I let you go. Thank you again for joining us. I know it's been a long day, but going into the game tomorrow, we talked a little bit about it. What challenges does Texas pose to y'all tomorrow, and how do you kind of combat that?
Yeah, I think their position player group is new. Like, they lost a lot of guys off of the last. I mean, they won 90 games the last 2 years. Right. And the only way you do that is like having a super old team, and that's what they had. A lot of guys moved on to professional baseball, but the talent is still there, and I think they're going to be really good as they get games under their belt. I think the athleticism is the first thing that jumps out. They'll want to put the ball on the carpet here. It's really slow with the bunting, and try to create pressure that way. So we're going to have to do a good job filling up the strike zone, eliminate 3 bases, handle the ball on bunts, control the running game, those types of things. If you get the leadoff guy out, then you don't have to worry about that stuff nearly as much. So that'll be an important part of it. Pitching wise, they'll have a number of good arms that, probably aren't pitching on the weekend only because A, they're in Texas, B, they just need a little more experience. So it's going to be a good challenge. I think it'll be very much like a SEC type game and environment. That's exactly why we're doing it. And, we need to play a few road games just from an RPI standpoint with the home road and balance in the RPI. So every decision I make in scheduling is built on RPI, but this one also has a lot to do with getting prepared for what's ahead.
Texas is going to be in the SEC sooner rather than later now, especially after the 2024 announcement. So this will be a kind of a good measuring stick for those guys, too, over there at Texas, seeing how they stack up to the SEC and whatever. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm hoping that I don't have to pay for the Longhorn Network just to watch the one game, but I'll figure it out. I don't know how that works. We're going to be watching. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on the show, and good luck tomorrow.
All right, guys. Have a great night.
You too.